You know, AJR just put out a song called A Dog Song. So I think I'm really here for this dog perspective related media. I think that's the great new trend that we should be going with. Welcome back to Halloween in the Middle, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is Good Boy. Good Boy is your classic evil entity in the house story, except this time it's from the dog's perspective. It stars Indy the dog, Shane Jensen, and Arielle Friedman. Alright, so finally starting Halloween in the middle, and it's only, oh my god, what? Yeah, it's been a little bit, it's been a couple weeks, I think, since I put something out, and it's already, like a third of the way into October, but that is because of good reasons, I promise. As you guys probably know from my last couple of videos, I have been publishing or self-publishing a book, and the last week or so has been the submission process, which started spooky season off very fittingly because it was a very scary process. Lots of red tape and thinking that maybe this won't work, but I think we're gonna be good to go, and now I can finally enjoy doing some Halloween stuff. Plus the fact that it's weird because, like, the 2 or 3 movies that I really wanted to see in October for Halloween that were coming out don't come out till, like, the later half, if not close to the end of October, which really sucks. But that does leave room to do some older movies and other things that I've wanted to do. But there was one that came out that I just couldn't pass up. It was a very interesting idea, and I had to see what A Good Boy was all about. So starting off with the highs, obviously the premise. It's a very unique premise, a kind of twisting of horror tropes and turning it on its head. And I like that we're doing this now. Like, we had In a Violent Nature, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, which, was from the killer's perspective in terms of when they're walking everywhere. With these kinds of movies, maybe they don't always become, like, the most classic, but there's something different. And that already makes me respect it a lot more, and I'm gonna be at least interested to watch it once. And it is a cool premise, because, like, yeah, there's always a dog in these horror movies, and the dog usually dies, but sometimes it doesn't. And either way, usually the dog sees stuff that we can't. So it is very interesting to have that kind of premise, not only because we get to see what the dog sees, but also because the dog can't talk. So then that adds to the stakes and the tension of, the dog and the audience know something that the main character, or human character at least, doesn't. So that adds to some stakes. And Indy the dog, he's a good boy.
We named the dog Indiana.
You are named after the dog?
The funny thing is, and I'll get to this in a second, I don't really know if I can praise him on his acting chops, because he doesn't really act, he's a dog. But, he's great. I mean, he's a dog. And he was a good dog. He's a good dog. So, he's the biggest high of this movie so far. But I do like how they did the entire perspective part of this movie, keeping all the shots really low to the ground, not really seeing the humans' faces a lot. It's kind of like Charlie Brown. We never really see the adults. And obviously just back and forth shots between something that the dog is seeing and the dog's reaction. So that led to a lot of really great tense moments, and just overall was a very interesting way to do things. Now the movie itself, I didn't actually expect to be really that scary, but it is. There's a good amount of moments that were pretty creepy. It's not the scariest thing in the world by any means, but it is a horror movie. A lot of what it relies on is that primal fear of being in the house alone at night. During the daytime, if you're watching this movie, you're like, it's pretty scary. But, like, think about when you are at home alone and it's nighttime, you're upstairs and you hear a noise downstairs and you're like, I'm not gonna go see what that is. I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna hide forever. But Indy, being the good boy that he is, he goes to check it out. That's very scary, because it could be anything, and it's your house, but, like, for some reason, when it's at nighttime and you hear this random noise and you don't know what it is, it could just be the house settling. The scariness of that is just elevated, and they use that a lot in this one. Plus, just some other really cool imagery. And I have to say, as much as I hate to admit it, there was a jump scare or two that really did get to me. And it's stupid, because it's those moments when you're like, yeah, there's a jump scare coming. So when you jump, it's just that much more annoying. And they just made the atmosphere really cool. Like, the whole time it's raining, it's kind of misty, it's foggy, it's in these woods, it's in a cabin. So that was all really cool as well to add to the atmosphere. But I think the coolest thing about this movie is actually what comes after the credits. which is a little BTS on how they made the movie, and I won't spoil it because I want you to see the whole thing and I want you to watch that part of it. But the really cool part of this is that they very much emphasize that Indy does not know that he's in a movie. The entire time I'm watching this movie was thinking, I wonder how long it took them to train this dog, and I wonder how they did it, what the techniques were, and I was shocked to learn that none of that was the case. I mean, they guerrilla filmed this thing with literally 2 people on set every day over the course of 3 years. That makes me just have that much more respect for this movie, and I love it even more. Even if the movie sucked, I would still be like, you know what? I respect the hell out of that. And it was very, very cool to see that. I do have one middle, and it's because it's something that I either wish they did, or if they did it, I couldn't quite tell. Being from a dog's perspective, you know, like Wolfman came out earlier this year, and that uses a lot of the sensory tools of, you know, the sights, what he's seeing, like the elevated sounds that he's hearing, like it's a lot louder, he's a little more sensitive. I thought they were gonna do stuff like that with him being a dog. You know, it's like he can probably hear sounds more, or he can, you know, the way he sees, it's like, you know, the colors are off, something like that. And at first I didn't think they were doing that, but then there was this one scene where there's supposed to be blood on the wall, but it doesn't really look red. It looks a little bit more brown or yellowish, but then it cuts to another shot and it is red. So like maybe they did do it, but it just wasn't like to an extreme. I couldn't quite tell. I wish they had, you know, if they did do that, do it a little bit more. I don't think it like takes away from the movie by any means. It just would have been something really cool, like, you know, if they really dove into that to just add on to that perspective from the dog. My only really big low is that the movie kind of spins its wheels a little bit. You know, it's one of those movies that, how much can you really do with this? I get it. But after a couple of scenes later on in the movie that felt like they were kind of the same thing, and then I thought, okay, we're really getting somewhere now. And then it stops, and then it goes back to what it was doing, and it kind of does that a couple times. Also, I just wish, this is a very small thing, I just wish there was a little bit more of an emotional resolution with the dog and his owner at the end. Just a little bit. You know, there is something, it just didn't feel like it really could have packed the punch that it did, and it didn't feel like there was a little bit of a lesson, but the final line from the owner I thought was good, but it could have been better. You know, it's a very nitpick thing, and you have to understand, you know, what's going on in the movie to know what I mean. So overall, Good Boy is a great movie because it has a dog in it. No, but seriously, it is a really good movie, and honestly, for being a very, very indie movie shot by people who just wanted to make some films and talk about the relationship with their dog, like, it's great. I love that. Give me more unique stuff like that, you know? Maybe this isn't one that I go back to and watch all the time, but I did really like what was here, and I want to know what else this guy's going to do, and just what other really cool concepts we can come up with horror movies that kind of turn tropes on their head a little bit. I'm going to give Good Boy a 3 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of Good Boy, and also what do you think of that AJR song if you've heard it. Again, I really think that we should be leaning into this whole dogs rule the media. I think that would make the world a better place. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and Halloween right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.